meetup of HackDemocracy. So first and foremost, I would like to thank a few people. David, who is just here, helping me bootstrapping this meetup here in San Francisco. But also Eric from Code for America, who really also helped make this thing happening here. So this is really great. And also Jeremy, who's been doing this logo, this great logo for HackDemocracy. And also the people who are going to present today. And also, obviously, you to come tonight. So that's really great to have you. So first to maybe introduce myself a bit. As you can probably hear, I don't have the great American accent. It's because I come from Belgium. And in Belgium, we do speak French, Dutch, German, but we don't speak English. So I had to learn it, but it's okay. But my accent, I'm still working on it. So the thing is, I'm a hacker. So I'm doing Node.js thing, all this kind of stuff. Other people, many people here are also hackers. And I'm also really passionate about democracy and also what we've learned in this hacking community, how can we apply that and make our democracy better. And so that's why I really wanted to start this group. And so I started that group in Brussels, which is the capital of Europe, where there are a lot of democratic institutions in Europe. And also wanted, since I live here, I wanted to also open a chapter here where obviously there is a strong hacker community. And so I'm not going to explain you what an hacker is. I had to explain that in Belgium, because over there people still think that hackers are pirates, do really bad things, they're gonna steal your password and do really bad things on the computer. So you already know that actually a hacker is a very good person, really kind, and basically a community. There's enthusiast computer programmers and system engineers, or people who like hacking stuff and do great things. So hackers do great things. That's the bottom line of this. And so hackers do great things. They do also a lot of fun things, like hacking the Microsoft Kinect and changing the way you look. That's a fun thing to do. There are other hackers who kind of detect your boobs and stuff. I mean, that's really cool, right? I mean, so hackers can do really a lot of fun stuff. But those things are really fun, but doesn't really make the world move forward. And so that's where hackers can meet democracy. I think we can do things that are really awesome and that can really make the world move forward by just applying our skills and what we've learned. Here are a few examples. Stamen here in San Francisco did this great map of crime spotting in Oakland. They also did a version in San Francisco. So that's all about how can we map the open data available out there here in this example about crime and criminality in the area. Here in England, The Guardian did that with all the expenses of the members of the parliament. And thanks to that, they realized that a few of them were really abusing the system. And so it created a scandal in the UK. And so since that, as a consequence of that, now members of the parliament are really paying much more attention whenever they use public money for their own going out for dinner or stuff like that. So it's a really good example of the consequence of having hackers beating democracy and doing great stuff. Here's in New York, mapping all the calls to 311. So it's also great kind of thing. So when hackers meet democracy, there is really an opportunity using all the things out there to actually have a positive impact on this world. And so HackDemocracy, the meetup, really the goal is to build this community of people. First, people who work in public institutions, people who will work in the city hall, people who will work in any government or in any public transportation system or any public service, healthcare, whatever, who know exactly what are the problems of our democracies, who can expose those problems, and also having hackers who can actually turn that data into something useful, as I just showed you. And so together, there is an opportunity to define the future of our democracies. And we don't know exactly how it's going to look like, but what we know for sure is that it's going to be usually linked with technology. It's going to be at the intersection of technology, and hackers are probably the best person who can apply that technology to democracy. So, another way of saying that is also going to celebrate innovations for more democracy. And today it's really great. We already have actually 5 presentations that can really illustrate all those innovations that can happen in that topic. So we're going to have first, so Code for America, introduction of Code for America. So they are really kindly hosting us tonight. Also, we're going to have a presentation of circle voting, actually building a social layout. Squawker Wiki by Max, votereports.org, and Short Stack. So those are going to be 5 great presentations. The format is the following: it's 5-minute presentation plus 5-minute Q&A, and the goal is really to give you an introduction, and then after that, people can, you can go and meet the presenter, and if you're interested, and ask for more questions if you want. So that's going to be the format. So I propose to let's get started and have
okay,
Jennifer
yeah.
presenting, doing introduction to Code for America. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to turn my timer on so I know how long I'm talking.
I got one too.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. We're really super glad to have HackDemocracy here. It's a perfect fit for what we do. And we're brand new. We just started here. All the fellows that you see here just came. Their first day was January 5th. And so it's right at the beginning of our existence as an organization. We're super glad to have people here in our offices and hearing a little bit about what we do. And we hope that this is not your, the only time that you come here, but the first of many. Can I just get a show of hands? Who here knows about Code for America and what we do, so I don't cover stuff you've already? Most people. Anyone have no familiarity with Code for America at all? Okay, so I will give you thanks, Dan. Yeah. Nice. Listen carefully, then. We are a service year program. You can think of us as Peace Corps for geeks or Teach for America for geeks, but instead of going into the public school systems or going into third world countries to build, wells or whatever, our geeks go into city governments and find new approaches to deploying technology that don't look like huge wastes of taxpayer money, but do look like the kinds of solutions that we find in our daily lives as citizens. We know how we want to interact with people, and we know what technology is useful, but our government doesn't seem to quite know that yet. So they're still in a very big IT infrastructure model of solving problems that hasn't been working for some time. And they even know it, that they are lacking the viral vectors to change, and we are hoping to provide that. So the 20 people who are here, and I think maybe we'll sort of about 10 of our fellows. Can you raise your hand if you're a Code for America fellow so everyone knows who you are? Yeah. These guys have taken a year out of their lives to come work for this cause, and what they're going to do is they're going to actually work on specific projects with the cities that we've contracted with. But they're going to do much more than that. They're going to start a movement that helps change how our government approaches its interaction with its citizens, and gets all of you involved with it. Concretely, what do we do? We've contracted with 4 cities. It took us over a year to contract with them because that's how fast government works in the United States. We have teams that are going to Philadelphia, Seattle, Washington, D.C., and Boston. Our fellows are here for the month. They are doing a training. They're doing a month getting to know each other, starting working their projects, but we've also brought in about 20 different speakers from both government and the tech industry to talk to them about what advice they can give and give them some perspectives on the challenge ahead. We've had some great speakers, and I think we've had really good feedback from our fellows. David Eves, who's here in our office, has led that. And one of the trainings that he gave that got the best feedback really was actually about negotiation. It's not about technology. It's not about a particular platform that we're going to use. It's not about finding the exact right tool for this particular project at this point. It's about how do we become change agents and how are we going to go into city government and not just say, hi, we're here to code, but we're here to help, we're here to figure out what the right approach is. So we've had this month of working on our projects and listening to these speakers and talking amongst ourselves. On Friday, the fellows will have their last day in the office for a month. They will, February 1st through the end of February, they're off in their cities in teams of 7 or 3, depending on which city they're in. There, they're going to interview as many people in City Hall as they can. They're going to job shadow, and hopefully in every department in the city, and they're going to learn how city government really works from the inside out, a view of City Hall that most people don't see unless you actually work with government. And they're also going to do a bunch of interviews to figure out, obviously, where to take the projects that they're assigned to do. Then they come back here, and we're basically kind of an incubator. So from March through about September, they're actually hacking on these problems that they're supposed to solve for their cities. Obviously talking a lot back and forth with their cities, but working in their teams collaboratively and competitively for those months. And it's around about September, well, hopefully before that, but September would be our sort of formal beta of different program to bring our cities together, to look at these things, and to spread them to more cities. Because the idea here is we shouldn't be anywhere building, we shouldn't be building things for one city and then recreating the wheel in another city the next year. We ought to be spreading things. Any piece of technology that's built with taxpayer money ought to be able to be used by any other jurisdiction. So we'll be spreading these to the other cities. We've got about 2 months for handoff, and then we take them around, try to shop around to other cities and get them to adopt them so that they can get those benefits as well. And then next January, we'll have our second class of fellows. We're opening our recruitment process, believe it or not, for our 2012 cycle. We're opening it sometime next month. So you'll see about that next. So if you think about applying for it. I know we have 5 minutes of questions.
Yeah, and then I need the questions. Just to let you know, because I forgot to mention that we also are recording so that we can put on the website for people who cannot follow us. I know we are open for 5 minutes of questions.
Anybody have a question? Hi.
What's the best way for non-fellows to get involved and help go from there?
Can you repeat the question, too?
The question is, what's the best way for someone who's not a fellow to be involved with the program? And I will ask, I would like to introduce you to Dan Melton, who's our technical director. Dan is the person you should talk to. We do have a number of ways. Please think about Fridays, brand Fridays in your brain as Code for America Labs Fridays. Come along and help in any of the projects that we have going. There'll also be, of course, virtual ways to help. You don't have to necessarily be here, but we do have people into our office to help us on projects. Not next month, but starting March 1st. Dan, you want to add anything?
Just come in on Labs Fridays. We have an Eventbrite link up on our site, and we'll send out the email afterwards too, inviting everybody to come out for Labs Fridays. But it's one of the best ways to get involved and meet everybody and kind of hang out.
So I'll just repeat that for the mic. On our site is a link to our Eventbrite for any of the Labs Fridays coming up, so we know that you're coming. So please join us. Any other questions?
Can you talk a little bit about your funding, whether it comes from federal, state, and what the scope of your budget is?
Our funding is about 50-50 between private foundations and the cities that we contract with. So these guys work for a small stipend. It's really a volunteer opportunity. But the stipends are covered by the cities themselves, so they pay a participation fee. We like that model because it gives us some visibility into our finances, and because we like the cities to have skin in the game. If it's free, they tend not to value it. If they've had to go through a process of getting a contract signed and checks cut, then they are going to pay a lot more attention to it. So that's the one half. For the overhead of the organization, we are funded by the Omidyar Network, Knight Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, including Clay Johnson, and a number of individuals. O'Reilly Media has funded us, Sunlight Foundation, the Case Foundation, basically private foundations. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's about half and half.
So you don't have an intention to make this purely sustainable on the basis of contracting to the city government?
I think that the trend in philanthropy right now is for organizations that will be sustainable, and so we're looking at various models to, in the long run, become an organization that doesn't require enormous amounts of private foundation funding. But I think we've got some leeway with our current funders. They're happy to fund us for the first couple of years to prove our model. I mean, this is our first cycle, and they want to see us spend a couple of years, figuring out how to have an impact on government before we need to really show that we're sustainable.
Cool, thank you.
Who's the contact person to apply for
With fellowship?
not fellowship, for the city?
Oh, for the cities. Alyssa Black isn't here tonight, but she is our city program director. Her email is alyssa@codeforamerica.org. But also, if you go to codeforamerica.org/cities, I think, the application form for cities is up for our 2012 cycle. It's also up right now. Our application deadline, if you know any cities that you think should apply, our application deadline for cities is March 1st.
No, we have a video of that?
We have a webinar on February 8th. Yeah, February 8th. For any city employees or we don't care. Walk through the whole process. It's a pretty lengthy process to apply because we really want to get more people to believe in what we're doing and we understand their goals and understand ours.
Okay, my name is Jesse Sanford, and I'm here with Circle Voting, which is what I call a social ballot application.
We do. We have a lot of interest.
So the idea
our
is
goal
to
overall is to change
counteract the increased
government.
influence of money and politics that we've been seeing in the last few years. This has been happening because of Supreme
primarily
Court
that you
decisions
can
like
see the
Citizens
impact.
United.
So if you do something in a city, you'll actually be able to,
advertising,
if you live in that city, see the difference, and it's important to have that feedback.
Arguably, you can say that what we've been witnessing is a distortion of the one-person,
there's certainly lots to be done at the federal level.
model
We
on
actually
which
have a pretty
democracy can theoretically be based.
high brand recognition with it
And this leads
federal
to an
agencies
exacerbation of corporate
about us,
rule
and really
and
we've been contacted
presumably at the
by
expense
6
of people's
different federal
economic
agencies.
interests.
We're
So this is
working
an
on the model
experiment
of how
that we've been conducting in about the last 6 to 8
how to
months.
engage with federal
And what we've
agencies.
been doing is figuring out how to create a system that will allow people to recommend to each other how to vote on issues in elections.
We're 5, our
rather
staff
than,
is 5.
Needing to go through the advertising
kinds of companies
or
that
the
engage
existing
with federal
experts.
government tend
What
to
if
have
communities
staff
were actually empowered
25 people just
in
on
all kinds of
contracts.
different ways, taking the models
we don't want to be
that
that
are used so
organization.
effectively
So we're
today
figuring out a way to work
in
with
activist movements, in churches and so forth, and really making that accessible to communities across the whole range of cultural and class differences and so
Thanks a
forth.
lot.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you again
So among our goals are enabling those grassroots voting recommendations, and then also giving people a source for information that actually goes all the way down the ballot. As you may know, the journalistic news coverage of election issues right now leaves something to be desired, and for a lot of local issues, there can be nothing at all. So that's something we wanted to change. So let's check over here. How's that coming up? Okay, so this is what we created, and it's a website, circlevoting.com. We did a beta for the November 2nd election, so that's what we're looking at. And this is an example of a ballot for folks in California. This is my ballot. As you can see, I'm logged in. Down here we have the opinions. Down here we have the opinions of a few of my friends. I guess there are 99 friends who have other opinions in there. And we have a breakdown for each issue, kind of saying 5 people are planning to vote the way they are. So that goes down. We were able to do local issues for San Francisco and California propositions. So you get the idea. We want to present something that looks like people's ballots, but it has the views from their friends and from the sources that they really trust, that they really care about. So some other critical pieces of the software that you need for that, you need some kind of device to help people understand where the information is going to come from. They need to be able to figure out who's going to be in their circle and find the people that are appropriate to them. And of course, they need to be able to get the word out about the site, right? So this was, from a technical perspective, this was a Rails 3 app. It's actually pretty trivial to implement. We did a bunch of jQuery work as well, as you can probably guess. So pretty standard stack. Ben here wrote an API for connecting to VoteSmart, which is a nonpartisan voter information resource. They provided a lot of the data. It was pretty helpful. And we put this together mainly in about 4 months of full-time coding, and then a little half-time here and there, and some testing, of course, an iterative process. So what were the results? Well, we were doing this beta in November, and we had about 300 people sign up and use the site. They got accounts, they put in opinions of one type or another. And over the course of the electoral season, we had about 1,200 unique visitors, as best as we could figure out from our statistics. We did have some people coming back, and just based on a rough methodology, I would guess that we improved the votes of about 100 people. So that's obviously a pretty minor democratic contribution, if you want to put it that way, compared to the size of the country. But it's enough that we can say, at least these people will check something like this before they go and vote. Definitely saw that surge on election day. And if I were going to guess, I would come to the conclusion as well that people are more likely to vote with their communities when they see something like this. Because of the integration with Facebook and Twitter, we're pulling in people that people are already connected to. So if there's a huge clump around that, that's going to be reflected in the participation here, and thus people are going to be more likely to be voting with those pre-existing communities. We think that would be kind of an improvement, and I'd love to hear what you folks think too. Thanks. Okay, questions, please.
Did you run like a survey or anything afterwards to find out if people voted the way that their circle voting told them to?
Can you repeat questions for the mic, too?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
So the question is, did we run a survey afterward to find out whether people actually voted the way their circle told them to? We did not. Anecdotally, because the software was mainly used in and around San Francisco and the Bay Area, and because we started it through our own networks, we were connected to a lot of the people. So, I'm pretty sure that survey would say that people in the main already knew how they were going to vote on big ticket items, but that they maybe lacked the information on a lot of those smaller ballot issues, and that what we did was we moved those smaller ballot issues closer to their community. So, next, please. Hi.
I'm sorry, maybe this is a stupid question. Why do you want people to vote in groupthink? That seems to me the opposite of having an intellectual discourse and discussing the issues and then decide.
People don't actually have intellectual discourses, I don't think.
Yes, absolutely.
I think what we have is we have a democracy which is based on a theory called the rational actor model, that people deliberate over reasonable information and then they come to a conclusion. And my hypothesis is that what people actually do is they vote with their moral identity. So I think that can be reflected in the communities that we're part of and that we feel connected to, whether that's based around, class, religion, gender, sexuality, what have you, maybe a professional affiliation. I think if we create systems to help get voting information out there that actually honor that way of operating, instead of pretending that people operate according to the model, then it doesn't move us closer to that rational actor idea. It's true. And so from a certain perspective, as a hacker, like an idealist, you want the people to operate in the right way. But what they actually do is what they do. And this is at least an alternative to the mass media advertising and to the framing that is currently distorting the debate.
Well, along those lines, maybe it would be interesting if you could, either with a checkbox or maybe by design, inject 1 or 2 or 3 people from outside the circle. Would you be interested in hearing opinions from people that we automatically recommend, quote unquote, so that there's a little bit of mixture going on, and you are getting closer to the medium?
So the question was, I'm sorry, the question was, could we suggest people from outside the circles to inject some dissent? We've been talking about incorporating that into future iterations.
You know Amazon with its whole most helpful positive
exactly.
review, most helpful negative review.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have the opposing view on it. Everyone gets it.
Yeah, if you just broaden it out, otherwise you get away from the thinking.
Yeah.
Is there a use for this in between the election cycle, like a way to follow up on issues that have been voted on?
So you've actually hit on our biggest problem. The question was, is there a use for this in between the election cycle? And in the iteration that we did here, there really was not. The biggest problem we're trying to solve right now, this is kind of the question, my question for the room, is how do we repurpose this to create something that would be used constantly and that would be appealing with a small number of seed users for a while it grows and while we lead into the elections. So we're looking at doing a new iteration of the software, basically just focusing on San Francisco and the Bay Area, just concentrating on this locality and ignoring the rest of the country for now, but creating something that's used on an ongoing basis. So, yes, please.
To feed into that idea, there's this project out of, I think, University of Indiana called Truthy. Truthy?
Truthy.
Yeah, have you heard of it ever?
I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah, it crawls all the public feed networks, right, Facebook, wherever, and draws these statistical models of how a meme spreads throughout the net, and tries to trace back the earliest mention of an article. So the example would say, be like to Sarah Palin, like, I could see Alaska. But she never actually said that. She said, like, some islands in Alaska, you can see Russia. So, but even the Democratic media is like, oh, she said that, so she's an idiot. So it gets back to the root of the truth.
So a reference to a project called Truthy that lets you trace memes back to their origins so that you can evaluate how truthy they really are. University of Indiana.
I think it was open source, so I think maybe.
If you have any cycles, you could use it for polling, so you can have politicians pay you to do polls.
Actually, we made a website called sfmayorvote.com, which is about the interim mayor selection. And if you check that out and look at our previous poll, we've got 2 on there, and we did exactly that for this issue 3 weeks ago. Thank you very much.
Yeah, do you have that little adapter? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Can I use
your computer?
Yeah. Or I guess I can use yours. I can use yours. That'll be more fun.
Hey, this is from
So do we need to see the comments?
For the Q&A, yes. But not for the...
Because it's like, I don't know, just looking over that.
No, it's just for the video. And it's for the...
Hello, my name is Max Ogden. I'm a fellow here at Code for America. I moved down to San Francisco a couple weeks ago. But before San Francisco, I was up in Portland. And in Portland, Oregon, I spent a lot of time writing open data applications. So I got really excited about ScraperWiki last month when I found out about it. It basically lets you write scrapers for, like, anybody can imagine a government website that's only accessible through like a .NET application that makes deeply nested horrible forms. So you can take the data out and make it into actual structured data. So I'll do it real quick. So I'm from Multnomah County. So let's see. There's a list of adoptable pets.
Aww.
Oh, Welsh Corgi! All right, that's awesome. So this feed gets updated all the time from Multnomah County, but they don't have any syndication. It's just in this weird application. So if I grab this URL, ScraperWiki is a service that will run your scraper periodically, and they allow you to write it in browser in a bunch of different languages. So I'm going to choose a Ruby one. It's my language that I'm most familiar with. You can do Python or PHP. So if I say, all right, so ScraperWiki, that's scrape. So you code in the browser, and when you run it, it actually executes it on their server and then shows you the results. So it actually went and fetched the HTML of that page for me.
That's neat.
So I have the raw HTML, and then there's this HTML parser called Nokogiri. That's a really awesome HTML parser that will allow me to search for all of those little boxes with animals in them. So if I do Nokogiri, HTML. And then if I go and see what the animal things are called, it looks like they're all in a big table. So let's actually just get all the tables. Let's see how many we get. So it's kind of fun because you don't actually have to set up an environment to code. You use Ruby gems to fetch HTML, parse HTML, and then save into a database. So it found 70 tables on this page, which is pretty awesome. Maybe a world record. Not the worst that I've ever seen. And then if we take all of the tables and then iterate through them, then we could say, what's the text of the tables, just to give you an idea. So it'll disregard all the HTML and just give me the actual text inside of the table. So for each one, you can see there's a bunch of like new lines, tabs, but then it actually gets to the real data. So this is ridiculous. So inside of here, so there's an entire table with just the name of the dog. So you can imagine, now that we have this framework built up, I could go through and iterate on this application and actually go into the actual tables, inspect the DOM, figure out what the dog name is called, save it as an object called name, for instance, and then find the age of the dog, find the adoption date, find what number you call, things like that. So there's a really, really cool capability here because it's, you drop in, you don't have to install anything, and you can get going, and then in a few minutes you actually have results. So I'll show you a couple other scrapers. Last Friday, or maybe a couple of Fridays ago, at Code for America, one of our cities is Boston. So we decided, let's get some structured data out of the city of Boston, and none of these existed before 2 Fridays ago. So we went and scraped the city of Boston's website just visually at first. We figured out, all right, there's feeds here, there's feeds here. And we found a particular feed. One of the cool ones was Boston Contacts. And it was just a form. We went in and wrote a bunch of code to go and submit to the form and find every little person on the website. This is all Boston contact information. So it's structured. They give you download via CSV, and they also have a fully featured API. You can do JSON-P for cross-domain. And then now there's a publicly accessible structured data set of all the contact information for the city of Boston employees, as well as a bunch of other data sets. So I encourage you to get started with this stuff. But I guess now I'll take some questions. And I apologize for making all of that up.
Scrapers are usually very brittle because the data changes, so do you automate the checking of the health of a scraper?
Good question. So this scraper, I can see that it runs once a day. The next one's going to be in 3 hours and 6 minutes. And this graph represents the amount of time that it's taken to run over time and if it's actually running. This one is kind of young, so it doesn't necessarily have that much data in the little graph. But it ran 20 hours ago. If this had broken, up at the top, the very first thing I would see is, hey, this scraper's broken. It's a wiki, you lazy person. You should go and click edit if you know Ruby, and then you can help fix the scraper. So I think that there's a Get Involved page on Scraper Wiki, and it actually has, you can, as a non-technical user, you can request a page to scrape, and you can also help fix a broken scraper. So there's 1,300 scrapers or so, and about 300 of them are actually broken right now. So I should be, instead of writing new cat scrapers, I should be writing scrapers for things that are already existing but are broken. And then the open scrapers are just purely people's ideas of what might be scrapable and programmers might implement.
Cool. Is there any facility in the API for doing some sort of pub sub or net notification when new data appears in the source?
Not currently. They run them in cron, and so it's not really real time. You can actually run in your scripts notifications to post to HTTP endpoints. Sorry, the question was, can you do pub sub, or like subscribe and push notify when new feeds come in? The minimum time you can run a scraper is once per 24 hours, and then any longer than that. So this doesn't really do, if you were trying to scrape a list of 911 calls and trying to warn people if there's crime in their area or something like that, this wouldn't be the best use case. You could do a historical archive of 911 calls, but it wouldn't be the best for real time yet. So maybe in the future. It's an open source project. They're based in London. All right, cool.
Can you create views for the scrapers?
It seems like you might have used this before.
Become obsessed with it.
Yes, you can. So I think if I search for Boston, so once the data's in there, these guys are building up different mechanisms for doing things with the data that still lives on ScraperWiki that are non-technical. So one of them is a map mashup. And let's see. How might I find?
I think it was the Philadelphia one. They did the crime thing.
Oops. There was not Philadelphia. Oh, the Q and the A are back. Oh, okay, there we are. Philadelphia. No? Am I spelling it wrong?
He's a great coder.
So there's the crime data, and then this is a crime data map that was made on ScraperWiki. It's loading. So I believe those are the 500 most recent crimes in Philadelphia. So it's literally, this was like a real quick mashup. Not a lot of time spent out of what ScraperWiki gives you, but that's the awesome part, is that you can make an actual map with very little coding or infrastructure set up, and they host it all for you. So it tells you all the data that you can put on scraped from the city of Philadelphia. So I also was able to hook this up. ScraperWiki has an API, so I wrote a little view that returns to me if you look up by value. So if you wanted to find all of the burglaries, you can create an API that you could say, hey, find the burglaries, or the most recent burglary in Philadelphia, and then give me, maybe the last 10 burglaries, and embed that. You can build a widget for another site, but you can do cross-domain requests directly to ScraperWiki, and it can host your data dynamically through an API, so it's pretty cool. All right. I'll end early in that case. But I've also found that ScraperWiki is really awesome for hackathons and things that you want to get people to achieve tangible end results, awesome data sets being open in a limited amount of time. So I'd encourage everybody to make accounts and then start scraping. So thank you.
Got my laptop.
Which kind of
I think it's the same one. Hello. Okay. So, hi, I'm Ben. I created, a friend of mine and I created Vote Reports over the past year, and it's an open system of politician report cards. So we start out with this we have this guideline of how to identify politicians based on the party right now, and this is the most important label we use in terms of voter education and identifying the appropriate candidates for ourselves. And I just find these designations lacking. So you have within these groups.
It was fine.
These groups,
it's fine.
you have subgroups and so on. You have people that aren't at all represented by the parties. So the parties don't come close to identifying to communicating all the breadth of the political designations. And if you get down to it, every individual in office has their own inclinations, their own ideas and perspectives, and really we need something that exposes them down to their individual identities. So this is the challenge of creating these politician ratings that are objective, quantifiable, and meaningful to people and have reasonable backing. So I'll show you vote reports now. So here's an example of Here's an example of a
a report card from the Human Rights Campaign. And here we have some New York politicians and their grades. These grades are based on the interest group ratings over the past 10 years or so, where they've been issuing these ratings every year, and also legislation that they've declared their own support or opposition to. So you see there's a long list of bills in support and opposition for the Human Rights Campaign. So what we do is we aggregate all of this information about, we take the individual votes on these bills, and also the interest group ratings, and we combine them into a single score based on the combination of all that information. So here I'll show Schumer is here. I might just do that. So this is an example of an interest group report card, and we have hundreds of interest groups represented that have published these ratings. And to make these more meaningful to individuals and to give them a higher level of interaction with that, we collect some of them up into issues or causes, we call them. And here's an example of gay rights, and we have 4 different interest groups aggregated in this, and every one of these scores is based on the aggregation of multiple different interest groups' ratings on these politicians that are all listed here. So here we have, in addition to the Human Rights Campaign, we have like P-Flag and National Gay and Lesbian Task Force. So then for every, we have politician pages where we can find all the different cause ratings and report ratings. There are, as I said, hundreds of report ratings for these individuals. And we really have the whole gamut of causes, everything from prison reform to religious representation and treatment of Muslims and so on. And so here are a few, so we have a few California politicians here. And one of the more interesting features is that the system's built in a way that individuals can come on and create their own reports using this legislation declaration. So here's a case called Save the Internet. It's a report where somebody took bills, support, and opposition from a website that's in favor of net neutrality. And those are listed down here. And we've been able to rate all the politicians based on their co-sponsorship and votes for and against that legislation. So so all of these ratings are backed by that. Real data from their actual actions over the course of the years. So likewise, there's another one about patent abuse for patent reform. And these were created by users in the system, so you can just register and select those bills that you think are meaningfully connected and add them to a report. So this gives us a much more in-depth representation of the individual politicians. So here's an example of Nancy Pelosi, where we took all of the cause ratings and we put them on a radar chart. So each of these lines represents a rating on a specific cause. Like here's support our veterans, and it's a relatively high score, small government, very low score, and so on. And to get a sense of the difference between politicians, you can see, like I can show you this radar chart to give you a sense that even among California politicians, there are major differences. So here's, these are each representatives and senators from this area, and they're all, you can see that there are differences in their ratings and so on. So, and finally, just quickly, we have a voter guide where you put in your location and you answer some questions about supporting and opposing causes, and we give you personal ratings. All right? So that's it. Any questions?
Is it also in Ruby like the other one?
Yes, it's a real time.
Okay.
Where does all the data come from?
It comes from, well, do you want the institutions that publish the data or the?
Yeah, it's just public data. Does it come from the scraper?
Right, so there's some, well, there's a lot of it's coming from, excuse me, I'm a little foggy here, but, so we certainly scraped all of the bill data for the different interest groups. They have a lot of them published online and written scrapers for that. For the interest group ratings, most of them are coming from the, this is embarrassing, but what's that? Yeah, Project Postmark, exactly.
A lot of the grades on the politicians are all like A or A plus.
Yeah.
Is that because there's just not that many?
It happens just because of the examples I was using.
Okay.
There's certainly, if you go, so that was like California and New York politicians for like gay rights.
Right.
And if you go to Texas, you get different ratings.
Yeah.
And a variety of ratings depending on like urban politicians and so on.
So yeah, there's sort of, the way I saw it, there was sort of kind of a liberal framing of things. In other words, can you get a rating in both, say, pro-choice and pro-life?
Yes, absolutely. So we represent all the everything embarrassing. Oh, we have everything. Here's biblical values in government. This is from Christian groups. Here's economic liberty is going to be on the conservative side as well, and so on. English is the official language.
Who determines these bunchings and what folks go into the...
These we had to curate ourselves because these don't exist from anyone, but you can identify the institutions. They basically declare themselves to be those. So here's an example. So we certainly have, the goal of the project is to be as objective as possible and to really capture the gamut of all the different issues and have meaningful communication on that. Any other questions? And just as a little interesting data tree, this is all the current U.S. senators clustered according to their ratings on the issues. So the ones which have the closest similarity between all their various ratings are brought together. So you can start to identify like real different clumps within the politicians and how they. This is a more meaningful equivalent of these different identifications we use about like the blue dog Democrats and so on. So here's like several different groups of Democrats, and you may find like that some of these are blue dog and some of these are different, and then different groups of Republicans as well.
Are you doing anything, so people are self-identifying by the issues that they follow, right?
Right, for the voter guide.
So are you doing anything with that data in terms of like letting them talk to each other or socializing it somehow?
That would absolutely be interesting and something I'd like.
Or feeding that back to the politicians and saying like this is the most
certainly right. There's quite a lot of interesting work that can be done on that front, and I was going to list some of the challenges we've got. We've got other challenges, for instance, that new non-incumbent candidates for elections don't have as much data, so it's more difficult to have a meaningful election guide. So we'll have to supplement the data somehow. And then certainly, like as we get a user base, like a larger user base in future elections, then communicating that back to politicians would be something, and making it a more year-round project would be very interesting.
Do you have state level?
State level is not. We haven't imported state legislation yet, although there's an open states project that we absolutely want to pull in their data, and that will give us the opportunity to cover more of these candidates.
I'm assuming you had this up and running for the last election.
Yeah.
Remember? Did you get a lot of feedback on it? What were general? What were people saying about it?
The main limitation for the project is that we don't have data on non-incumbent candidates, so it's more difficult to make it a useful tool until we solve that. We'll probably have to do some sort of crowdsourcing or something.
What are your retention rates now?
It's really, so we've got. I don't have great information on data about ongoing use and so on, but it certainly I think should be a year-round tool for people who are interested in following politics and so on. And I want to serve that more meaningfully.
Now, what's your basic business model? Is there?
It was never intended to have. Well, there are commercial possibilities in the future, but there's it's not the primary focus.
.org.
.org, exactly.
Last question.
Yeah. Are you guys going to do any post-election analysis? Like, say, all right, the people who followed these sort of issues were all the ones that got voted out. So,
right,
you can have some of that kind of stuff for future politicians that might wade into the wrong waters.
That would be really interesting, I'm sure. And it's just a question of manpower and giving the time to develop that stuff. Like a lot of the data analysis stuff is ready to be done, but we haven't had time for it.
Do you have an API?
Oh, yeah, we do. And talk to me a little bit, I guess, if you have any more questions.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Dan Melton, CTO for Code for America. Welcome to our space, and I want to talk to you about pancakes. So I think that a short stack of pancakes are really yummy. And at Code for America, we think cities are yummy. Pancakes equals yummy, cities equals yummy, therefore cities must be pancakes. And pancakes, they have ingredients. Blueberries. Cities also have ingredients, like software, open data policies, and data sets. So where can I eat pancakes at? Well, you can go to IHOP. IHOP has a menu of pancakes, but cities don't have a menu about their ingredients. So if I want to order pancakes, I look at ingredients on my pancakes before I order them. But if I want to interact with the city, I don't know what the software stack is behind the city that's actually making up the participation tools behind the interactions of the city itself. So short stack is a pancake menu for cities. The idea was sort of like put together based upon Crunchbase, which is sort of like a short stack about investors and companies and people, etc. And here's our sexified version of Crunchbase. The idea here is to go out and grab information about cities based upon their URLs, city and county URLs. Problem, how do we get 8,500 cities and counties and yada yada and getting their actual websites? Kind of an issue. Solution, business.gov has an API on cities and counties that you can actually go and get all the URLs for all the cities and counties. And somebody's sitting there typing those into a database somewhere, and it's programmatically available. One of those counties and cities that's available is this Unta County. And you can see it over here on the left, and this is the lovely little URL that we got for it. And if I click it, here is their lovely, lovely website. It's gorgeous. I wonder who powers this website. Oh, looky! This website is powered by Civic Plus. I wonder how many other cities are powered by this lovely template. So if I went into ShortStack and looked up Civic Plus, I went into ShortStack and looked up Civic Plus. There it is. The goal here would be to actually search all of those cities and counties and find whether or not they're powered by Civic Plus. Well, how do we do this? Well, somebody writes a WISC. A WISC is a lovely little batter inspector where we turn the website upside down using a custom Google search, and we go and search for it. So if you wanted to actually search all of the websites out there for powered by Civic Plus, you can just come in and you can WISC me. And then this is going to go and search through 8,500 websites and look for powered by Civic Plus. Yay. Oh look, here's another thing, Code Red. You could go into ShortStack if you wanted to and add a new product called Code Red. Really easy. And we'll add a new WISC. A Google search. And if we look down here, we can do Code Red sign up as our Google search. And WISC me. It's using delayed job, by the way, on the back end. Yay. Please get involved. This is ShortStack on our Code for America account, github.com/Code for America. We have lots of issues that need to get fixing and more ingredients, whisking, spatulas, and griddles to make.
So we got 38 seconds.
Ooh, it's pretty. Okay, then. Questions?
What would you like to see done with this?
That's a great question. So the non-whimsical version of it, actually working for Code for America, interviewed about 80 to 90 cities and county officials over the course of the past 6 months. And in every single interview I had, they said, oh, we'd love to use software. We'd love to use different types of software. Where can we go and find the menu of software that we can use? And then once we do find it, well, who uses that? What are other cities that we can talk to that actually use this piece of software? Oh, and once we do find somebody who can deploy that or actually get that for us. So here's a list of people that will actually install that for you. So really it's about transparency in the marketplace. It's about bringing a much more transparent look to how city IT works. And as citizens, if we want to also hack in our government, it helps to know the actual tools our government are using to actually provide channels of participation. That's really where I see short stack going. Other questions? Ooh, we have 420.
Can you go through adding non-WISC type organization to demonstrate if this is more like a wiki or something?
What do you mean?
If you interview someone and you find out about a new IT vendor, how do you go add them in?
You just press this button, and then you just add them. And then you create it. And then you would find that city or that county. And pardon the UI, we're still working on it. If there are any designers in the room, we would love for you to work on this with us. And you can actually add a relationship like they use a particular product.
Can the cities and counties editorialize at all and say, I'm using this product, but I hate it? Something else, so.
Great question. Would you like to help us build a feature stack for comedy? Friday, 10 a.m.
So did I understand correctly that your target market for this is really the governments themselves, so that kind of a shopping place for code and developers and so on and so forth?
Yes, but I'm also a little selfish because if I want to form a new business and I'd like to compete with Civic Plus because their templates are not that beautiful, I'd like to know who all their clients are that are currently using that particular software so that I can go and compete with them. So it's also a tool of transparency for business development in this space.
So how do you intend to market to those government officials so that they'll go to this?
I was hoping you'd come out on Friday and help pick up a phone.
Okay.
To be determined. It says to be determined development.
When you were whisking before, I didn't see your results come.
You know what? I could use some help on Friday to put that on the actual line.
The pancake metaphor came into existence around like 5 days ago, around 10 p.m. I think.
Yes. So this is definitely a product in work. This is internal to Code for America right now, but you are welcome to join us in this effort. It's shortstack.codeforamerica.org. Don't press the GitHub or the other buttons on there because they don't work. If you're available on Friday. Other questions? Yeah.
Have you thought about sending surveys out to these companies and ask them who their clients are?
That's a great question.
Come on Friday.
Hi, Granicus. You're in 700 cities. Could you please tell us who those are? So maybe if you're here on Friday, you can help us survey and pull all of these into ShortStack.
Via Scraper Wiki.
Via Scraper Wiki. Yeah, so we're definitely partnering with a lot of the vendors in this space, but they're, understandably, they don't want to let go of their client lists. They don't exactly want the competition. And I don't know, I would be interested to know who owns the video space for cities and counties. It would be interesting to know. But we know what Microsoft's share is in the business world. Why don't we know what Granicus' share is in cities and counties? I love this company, by the way. They're cool. Other questions?
What's the license of it? Like in Europe, some countries want to use some systems.
Well, Rails allows internationalization. So on Friday, if you'd like to help build out the translation clause.
No, but what's the license? It's a GPA. It's a.
Oh, what's the license on this?
Yeah.
I don't know. What's the license?
Probably
on this?
MIT. Yeah.
Quick huddle. BSD.
BSD. All right.
The license is BSD. Let me just go in here right now.
All the work we're doing for the cities, by the way, is it BSD, Dan, license?
Yes.
For everything we produce. So every line of code written by Code for America fellows or anyone sort of associated with the organization will be open source under the SLA. And we'll probably be on a GitHub account.
Yes, please do. Awesome. Thanks.
Was that is there any crossover between the projects that Code for America is doing and the other vendors that are already out there?
A little bit. I mean, we're not too scared about competing, but that's not the goal. Hopefully, if it already exists, we don't have to build it. If it already exists and it's horrible, we're okay rebuilding it.
But another reason that we want to keep track of these vendors is so that we can interoperate.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Not that tall. So thank you very much. So that was it for today's presentation. So thank you very much for all the presenters. So we quickly want to go with you through what's next for HackDemocracy in San Francisco. Yeah, so I'll say 5 minutes for me. So the idea is to do 1 meetup per month. So the best way to keep in touch is obviously through meetup.com. So you can join the group and then you will be notified when we're going to schedule the next meetup. So if you know also places where we could do that in San Francisco, so that would be great. We're also looking for presenters, so please reach out to me. Already have a few already scheduled for next month. So that's gonna be great. Another thing I think would be really great is if we could have also some people who are not hackers, but who work in public institutions and who have access to data, who know very well on the ground some problems for which they need software or web application or mobile apps. If they could present those problems, I think that would be also a great way to take the other way around, starting from the problem and see what hackers can do about it. So if you know people, please share the word, spread the word, and reach out. The idea as well is not to make it only here, but also in other cities. So already a meetup group started in Brussels. There's going to be probably real soon one in Paris. So now in San Francisco, we would love to do one in DC for obvious reasons. So if you also, again, if you know people over there, that would be awesome if some people could also start that in other cities. So keep in touch, twitter.com/HackDemocracy.